Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into the words of Rumi.
Oh, excellent choice.
There was one line in particular that
Okay.
just kind of jumped out at me, and I thought maybe this would be a good one to kind of unpack.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
says, "Whoever became separated from himself became my companion."
Okay. You
And
deep.
It's episode 4
Yeah.
in our little
Yeah.
deep dive here
Yeah.
into the Mavoid audio files
Yeah.
with Dr. Dinani
Yeah.
and Dr. Larijani.
Wonderful thinkers.
And
Yeah.
just a quick note for everyone. These are translated conversations
Right.
with Iranian philosophers. So
Yeah.
little things might get
Of course.
lost in translation.
Sure. Yeah.
But
For sure.
we'll do our best
To catch the distance of
yeah,
what they're saying.
to get the
Exactly.
core of it. But anyway, back to Rumi. This quote, it's
Yeah.
like, how can someone be both lost and a companion? It doesn't seem to make sense.
You hit on something really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of this head
Yeah.
scratcher.
Yeah.
And I think to unpack it, we really need to understand, where Rumi's coming from.
Right.
What's the perspective?
Yeah.
And the perspective here, of course, is Sufism.
Okay. So when he says separation,
Yes.
he's not talking about
Well,
like
he's
someone...
not talking about someone physically
Yeah.
going off and getting lost.
Right. He's not talking about
No.
physical separation.
No, not in the literal sense.
Yeah.
Right. This is about spiritual separation.
Yeah.
And what the Sufis call disconnection from our true essence or our Batin.
Yeah, our Batin. Now,
Okay.
our sources here
Yeah.
describe Batin as
Yes.
kind of like
It's our inner reality.
our inner reality.
Yeah. It's like the core
Yeah.
of who we are.
Yeah, and beneath all the layers. They contrast this with the Zahir, right? Which is like...
The Zahir. Exactly.
The
Which
one-
is more like
Yeah.
the outward appearance.
Yeah.
The face we show the world.
So
The persona.
I guess you could think of it this way. The Zahir
Yes.
is the
Is the,
kind of the craft.
the crafted persona,
Yeah.
the roles we play,
The roles we play.
the image we project.
Right. But
Right.
the Batin.
But the Batin is the raw, unfiltered self,
Yeah.
the essence beneath all that.
Right. So Rumi's suggesting that
Yes.
it's when we
When we lose touch
lose touch
with that Batin,
with the Batin
that's when
that we become his
we
companion.
become his companions.
Okay.
Right.
So it's...
And so
this-
it's not just being lost.
It's not just being lost. It's being
Lost
in a
specific way.
very specific
yeah,
way.
Yeah. It's being lost from our true selves.
Right. Lost from ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dr. Larijani, in the audio files, he makes this really interesting point.
Okay.
He says that
Yeah.
Rumi's not talking about just any companion.
Right.
He's talking about a particular
Mhm.
kind of companion. And these are
Yeah.
the people who are on the path of Suluk.
Suluk. Okay. Now, for
Right.
those of us who...
Now, I know that might sound
Yeah.
a little jargony.
A little jargon here.
What does Suluk actually
What does that mean?
mean?
Well, it's essentially the Sufi path
Okay.
of inner transformation.
Okay.
So you could think of it as a
Right.
spiritual roadmap
Yeah.
for those who are seeking
Okay.
to reconnect with their Batin.
With their true essence.
Their true essence. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
So these companions that Rumi's referring to,
Companions. Yeah.
they're the ones who feel this separation keenly.
Right.
And they're actively trying to bridge that gap.
So they're on this
They're on a quest,
quest
you could say,
alongside
Rumi.
Rumi.
Yeah.
But what makes them
But here's a question.
drawn to him in the first place?
Why are they drawn to Rumi?
Yeah.
What is it that
Mm.
pulls them in?
Yeah.
And Dr. Dinani suggests
Right.
that it's this shared understanding,
Okay.
this connection
Yeah.
on the level of the Batin.
On the level of the Batin.
Yeah. So
it's like they
sense intuitively that he understands their yearning,
Yeah.
their longing,
for something.
their longing for something more,
Something more.
for meaning,
Yeah.
self-discovery,
And they see that
in a way that,
maybe others.
yeah, so they see a reflection of, like they see a reflection of their own
they're
longing in him.
longing in it. But how can you?
Right. Connect,
it's
like that level.
How can you connect with someone
Yeah.
who lived centuries ago?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like
Right. I mean, it's not like we can sit down
Right.
and have tea with Rumi.
have tea with Rumi and,
Right.
chat
right,
about
right,
all this.
Right. So,
So that's it.
how is that possible?
That's where the power of his poetry comes in.
okay.
Right. But
right.
even beyond the poetry,
Okay.
Dr. Dinani uses this
Yeah.
really fascinating story
Okay.
to illustrate this Batin connection.
Okay.
And it's a story about a Hindu man
Okay.
and a Turk who meet
Yeah.
and form this deep bond
Okay.
despite not speaking the same language.
Wait. So they couldn't even
They couldn't
communicate verbally at all.
How did they connect then?
And that's exactly Dr. Danny's point. He
Right.
says,
The language of intimacy is something else. Empathy is better than speaking the same tongue.
wow.
So they connected
Yeah.
on this deeper level,
Yeah.
bypassing the need
Bypassing
for
language.
shared language,
Yeah.
shared culture.
So
Yeah.
this is making me think about, You know, how often we...
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, how often we try to connect with people.
Yeah.
Even people who seem to have things in common with us.
Yeah, people who,
On a
surface,
flat.
you would connect.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe it's because we're stuck.
And maybe it's because...
On the level we're stuck.
On the level of the Zahir.
We're Zahir, yeah.
Focused on appearance.
Focused on appearances.
Superficial similarities.
And we're missing those opportunities for...
And we might be missing
Yeah.
those opportunities.
For Batin connections.
For Batin connections.
Because we're just not...
Because we're not tuned into the right frequency.
The right frequency.
So to speak.
Right. But how do we...
But how do we actually move
beyond that surface level?
Move beyond that.
And really connect.
Surface level.
And connect on that deeper level.
That's the million-dollar question.
Million-dollar question, yeah.
And Rumi, being Rumi,
right.
doesn't
give us...
Exactly. He doesn't give us...
Step-by-step guide.
Like, doesn't lay it all out for us.
So where do we even begin?
Right. So where do we even begin?
Yeah.
Well, both Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani, they offer clues.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Based on their understanding of Rumi's work and Sufism.
Okay.
And one key element that they both highlight is this idea of cultivating inner stillness.
Inner stillness.
I mean, yeah,
sounds
inner stillness.
ill in theory, but
it sounds lovely.
How do we actually do that? In a world of constant discretion.
Especially in our world of constant, purely sit through a movie without checking my phone.
Right. I mean, our attention spans are checking my phone.
Right. I mean, our attention spans are pretty fried
these
days.
So how do you even begin to cultivate?
Well, I think it's important to remember that it's a practice.
Right.
It's not a destination, right?
Okay.
You don't just arrive
right.
at inner stillness.
Yeah.
It's something that we cultivate over time.
So it's a journey.
It's a journey.
Okay.
And it starts with small steps.
Okay.
Right. Even 5 minutes a day
All right.
of focused breathing
Yeah.
or meditation can make a difference.
Okay.
You know, Dr. Larijani, he likens it to creating space for your baton to emerge.
Okay.
Like quieting
the chatter.
The mental chatter. To hear your soul's whispers.
Right.
Right.
So
it's about
making space.
Yeah, making space.
Okay.
So
creating that space.
I'm going to give that a try.
Okay.
But is it all about sitting in silence?
It's not.
Because Dr. Dinani seems to emphasize
sitting in silence. It's also about
active pursuit.
The active knowledge and self-improvement. Not just
pursuit of knowledge,
active waiting,
and self-improvement.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like
So he sees it as a two-pronged approach.
Right.
Okay. Inner stillness creates the space.
Right.
But it's that conscious effort. To grow. And learn.
Right.
That helps us bridge the gap.
Okay.
Between Zahir and Batin.
So it's like we're actively chiseling away.
Yeah. It's like we're
at those layers.
Chiseling away.
That are
the layers
boring.
That obscure our true selves.
Our true selves.
Right. And in that chiseling, in that striving,
yeah,
we might just stumble upon the path that leads us to Rumi's company.
Right.
Not as someone separate from ourselves, but as someone finally coming home to who they truly are.
Wow, that's a
that's
a beautiful.
It's a beautiful thought.
Yeah. Finding ourselves through that journey.
Finding ourselves through that journey.
But Dr. Larijani
also
cautions against.
He also cautions against Taqlid.
Taqlid.
Yeah.
Which I understand is...
Which is often translated as blindly following.
Blindly following.
External rules and rituals.
External rules and rituals.
Right.
So it's not enough to just...
So it's not enough for just go through the motion.
Confessions.
Right. He's saying that true spiritual growth requires moving beyond blind faith and seeking deeper understanding.
So it's about
internalizing the meaning.
Internalizing, not just mimicking
the form.
The form.
Yeah.
And
that ties back.
That ties back to Dr. Dinani's story.
To Dr. Dinani's story of the Turk.
And the Turk.
Their connection wasn't based on... Their connection was based on
beliefs,
on shared beliefs
or practices,
Yeah, but on this deeper recognition of their shared humanity.
Yeah. So it's about
going beyond those outward forms.
The outward forms.
And connecting. On the level of the heart.
Yeah.
Right.
And perhaps
that's where we find
the teaching. Yeah.
To bridging that gap.
Between the Zahir and the Batin. Right. It's embracing that
that heartfelt yearning. That authentic seeking that unites us.
Not only
to each other, but also
to that divine
my
hidya,
divine essence
within.
This is already giving me
some powerful
thought, isn't it?
to think about.
Yeah.
But
we've only just scratched.
Go any further. Let's take a moment to digest what we've learned so far.
Let's take a moment.
We've been talking about Rumi's concept.
Rumi's concept of companionship.
It's companionship.
And how it relates.
How it relates to this idea of being separated from our true self.
Of companionship.
And how it relates
to this idea
of being separated from our true self.
Of being separated
from ourselves. Yeah.
Our Batin.
The Batin, right.
Yeah.
And
we've touched on
some of the ways
that we might start bridging that gap.
Like
cultivating inner stillness.
Inner stillness and actively pursuing
knowledge and
self-improvement. But
which
remember,
is just the tip.
The tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Right.
But there's so much more.
Stick with us.
To unpack here.
As we continue.
So stick with us as we continue to explore.
The depths
of Rumi's
wisdom and uncover more clues. To help us navigate this journey of self-discovery. All right. One thing that really struck me about Dr. Larijani's interpretation of Rumi.
Is his emphasis on moving beyond analytical thinking. He warns against dissecting Rumi's poetry. Like it's a scientific formula.
I get that.
Yeah,
it's like trying to explain a joke. You might understand the words. But you lose the humor.
You lose the essence of it.
Yeah.
So how... So how should we be approaching Rumi's work?
Should we be approaching it?
Yeah.
Dr. Dinani suggests?
Well, Dr. Dinani suggests that we approach it with the lens of love. He sees Rumi's poetry as a love song to the divine, an outpouring of the soul's yearning for union.
So it's less about intellectual analysis? And more about opening ourselves up to the emotional and spiritual resonance.
And more about the heart.
His words.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the difference between reading a description of a sunset and actually experiencing the beauty of it firsthand.
Yeah. Right. I can relate to that. You can
talk about
the colors?
Yeah, you can talk about
the colors, the shadows. But nothing compares to actually being there.
Nothing compares.
Actually being there.
Yeah.
In that
feeling the warmth
on
your skin, witnessing the sky transform.
Right.
And Dr. Dinani uses a similar analogy. He talks about gazing at a starry night sky. Right. He can analyze the stars, categorize them, map their positions.
Right.
But in doing so, we might miss the awe-inspiring beauty.
Of
the whole experience. He's like,
we get so caught up in the details that we forget to just be present. With the wonder of it all. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what Dr. Dinani...
He's cautioning us again. With
Rumi's poetry. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we get
too focused on intellectualizing
every metaphor,
dissecting every verse, we risk missing the transformative power. Yeah.
So it's about
surrendering
to the experience. Right. Letting
go of the need to control and understand everything. And allowing the meaning to reveal.
And understand everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And allowing
the meaning
to reveal itself through the heart, not just the head.
Right. And this leads us
to another key concept.
So
Dr. Dinani highlights. And that's the role of the teacher in Sufism. He explains that the teacher isn't there to spoon-feed you answers.
So it's not about finding a guru.
It's not about finding a guru.
We'll tell you exactly
what to
believe.
Well, how to live your life.
How to live your life.
Right. It's not about...
Because magic suggests that it's... to a midwife. Someone who helps you give birth.
I love that analogy.
To the wisdom.
It suggests that
it's already present within you.
The potential for awakening is already there.
It suggests that within us.
Potential for awakening
we need some guidance.
Is already there within us.
To bring it forth.
But we might need some guidance to bring it forth.
Yeah. And the teacher.
Through
their knowledge and experience. Help guide us on that journey.
Can help guide us. On that journey of self-discovery.
But ultimately. The work is ours to do.
Right. Yeah.
It reminds me of something you mentioned earlier. Tuskeia, it's often translated as purification or refinement, right?
Yes. And Dr. Larijani describes it beautifully as polishing a mirror. the mirror, in this case, is our heart, our soul.
Right.
And Tuskeia is the process of removing the dust and grime.
Right.
So it can reflect the divine light more clearly.
So how do we polish that mirror?
Right.
What are some concrete steps?
So how do we polish that mirror?
We can take...
Well, it involves honest self-reflection, identifying those smudges that prevent us from seeing ourselves and the world clearly, right?
Maybe it's negative self-talk.
Negative self-talk.
Maybe it's holding on to grudges.
Holding on to grudges.
Maybe it's
or limiting beliefs.
Limiting beliefs.
Right.
Okay.
So Tuskeia is about
cloud our vision.
Recognizing those patterns.
Yeah. So Tuskeia is about
recognizing those patterns.
Letting them go.
And actively working on letting them go.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
not a one-time thing.
Not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing practice. A mirror needs regular polishing.
Okay.
Our hearts need constant attention and care.
This brings us back to Dr. Larijani's warning against taqlid, blind following.
This brings us back to taqlid.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like
blind following.
True Tuskeia.
It seems like true Tuskeia.
Requires moving beyond.
Simply following.
External rules and rituals.
And rituals.
It's not just about,
outer form.
Going beyond those outward forms.
Yeah. And connecting.
On the level of the heart.
Right. And Dr.
Dinani connects this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the story.
Of
the Hindu man.
And the Turk.
Yeah.
Pointing out that their connection.
Their connection
isn't about shared beliefs.
But a deeper recognition.
Of
their shared humanity. Yeah.
So it's about
going beyond.
Those outward forms. And connecting. And the level of the heart. But what does that actually look like?
In practice. Yeah.
Right? Like how do you...
Remember Dr. Larijani's point about moving beyond analytical thinking. It's about bringing that same openness and receptivity to our interactions with others.
So instead of approaching every interaction with a checklist.
Approaching every interaction with a checklist.
Shared beliefs or opinions.
Of shared beliefs.
We try to connect.
Or opinions.
We try to connect.
Intuitive. On a more intuitive.
Heart-centered level.
Right. Yeah.
That sounds challenging. Doesn't it? I'm so used to
filtering everything.
Like anything else.
And it starts with awareness.
Preconceived notions and judgments.
Right. Simply noticing those judgments arise without condemning ourselves can be a powerful first step.
And maybe as we
cultivate
we'll
start to see glimpses
that awareness
of that baton connection.
We start to see glimpses
in our everyday lives
of that baton connection, not just
in our everything
with people
who share our beliefs, with anyone who's open to that kind of
heartfelt exchange.
Right. It's about recognizing.
It's
harsh term.
That spark of the divine. In everyone. Regardless of their background. Their beliefs. Experiences.
That's a beautiful thought.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thought.
But how do we bridge the gap between... Recognizing that spark.
Between recognizing that spark and actually living from that place
of interconnectedness.
How
do you actually do that?
How do we actually live that?
Day to day.
Yeah. It's easy to talk about. I mean...
Inner peace and spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening.
How does that translate into our daily life? With all their demands and distractions. Right.
Well, remember Dr. Larijani's emphasis on cultivating inner stillness?
Yeah.
That's one key practice.
Okay.
Even a few minutes of meditation or mindful breathing each day can help us.
Create
that inner space. Where we can connect. With our true selves.
But it's not just about sitting on a cushion. Right.
But it's not just about
Dr. Dinani
sitting on a cushion. Also talk about
active pursuit.
The active pursuit.
Of knowledge and self-improvement.
Right. As part of this journey. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's about engaging with life wholeheartedly. Seeking out experiences that challenge us. And grow and learn.
That challenge us to grow and learn.
And maybe in that process... we start to see the world. Through the lens
of love and compassion. Recognizing that spark of the divine. In everyone we encounter. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's about
shifting our perspective.
From
one of separation.
To one of interconnectedness.
Recognizing that we're all
Part of this grand tapestry.
Grand tapestry of existence.
Of existence.
This whole conversation reminds me of something Dr. Dinani said about the Sufi concept of fana. It's often translated as annihilation.
Yeah.
But he explained that it's not about obliterating the ego.
It's not about obliterating the ego.
It's about dissolving
the illusion of separation.
The illusion of separation.
Right.
Right.
That's a beautiful way of putting it.
It's a beautiful way of putting it.
It's about recognizing.
It's recognizing
that our individual identities
are
just drops.
Drops.
In the vast ocean.
In the vast ocean
of being.
We retain our unique
forms, but we also recognize our interconnectedness.
Our interconnected.
With the whole.
With the whole.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe that's what Rumi is hinting at.
Rumi is hinting at.
When he talks
about those who are separated. from themselves. Becoming his companions. Right.
Perhaps it's in that recognition.
Of our
shared humanity.
Of our shared humanity.
Our shared longing. For connection.
That we find our way back.
To wholeness. Right.
It makes me think about.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
All the times I've felt alone, isolated, disconnected. From myself.
From yourself.
And the world around me. And maybe, just maybe, those were the times when I was most in need.
When you were most in need.
Of Rumi's companion.
Of Rumi's companionship.
Right.
Right.
And perhaps serves as a reminder that we're never truly alone. That there's a love, a wisdom, a presence that's always available to us. We just open our hearts.
Minds to receive it.
And minds to receive it.
Right.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It's been an incredible conversation.
Rumi's wisdom.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for sharing
pleasure.
Your insights and expertise.
Well, I hope this conversation
and our listeners
has spurred some inspiration.
Thank you.
And perhaps even a few aha moments.
I know it has for me.
For those listening.
And I hope our listeners will join us for
I know it has for me too.
The remaining 36 episodes.
And I hope
we continue to explore
our listeners
the depths of Rumi's poetry.
The remaining 36 episodes.
Of Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani.
As we continue to explore the depths
before we can
of Rumi's poetry.
Take a moment.
And the wisdom of Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani.
To let everything
But before we continue,
we've discussed sink in.
Let's take a moment.
And
so let everything we've discussed sink in.
We'll be back soon.
All right.
To delve even deeper.
And we'll be back soon.
Into the wisdom of Rumi.
To delve even deeper into the wisdom of Rumi.
You know, that last part, it really got me thinking.
Yeah.
About this idea of the beloved being present within us all along.
It is a beautiful concept, but it can be a challenging one.
Challenging to grasp, you know.
Especially in a world
that often emphasizes
external achievements, material possessions.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes me think about all the different ways.
It makes you think
we try to fill that void, you know, that sense of longing. In our lives.
That emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We seek connection.
We seek it
everywhere, don't we?
Relationships. Careers, hobbies,
social media.
Even. But sometimes it feels like...
chasing after shadows.
It's like we're searching for something outside ourselves.
Outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
The true source.
When the true source.
Of fulfillment.
Fulfillment lies within.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Rumi's trying to
point us toward.
With his poetry.
That by turning inward. By cultivating that connection.
With our Batin.
We can tap into. This inexhaustible wellspring. Of love and wisdom. That's
already there.
Yeah. And
Dr. Dinani emphasized this too.
Yeah.
He said it's not about
becoming recluse.
Right.
Or withdrawn.
It's not about checking out of the world.
From the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about bringing that inner light, that baton connection.
Right.
Into everything we do. Yeah.
So
but not either or.
It's both hand, yeah.
Yeah.
We cultivate that inner connection. Yeah, we let it inform our interactions with the world.
We let it inform our interactions with the world.
Okay,
so it's about integrating those two aspects of ourselves.
Integrating the Zahir and the Batin.
And the baton.
So that they
work in harmony.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
But how do we actually do that? In a practical sense. I mean, it's
in a practical sense.
Easy to talk about inner peace
and spiritual awakening.
But how does that translate into our daily lives.
Into our daily lives.
With all their demands and distractions.
The demands and distractions of everyday life.
Yeah.
Well, remember Dr. Larijani's emphasis on cultivating
their stillness.
Their stillness.
Right.
That's one key practice.
Right.
Even a few minutes of meditation or mindful breathing each day.
Right. Even just taking a few minutes to just breathe.
Can help us create that inner space.
Create that inner space.
Where we can connect.
Where we can connect with ourselves.
With our true self.
Right.
Right.
And Dr. Dinani talked about
the active pursuit
of knowledge and self-improvement. As part of this journey. Yeah. Okay.
So it's about
it's about
engaging with life wholeheartedly.
Seeking out
experiences that challenge us. To grow and learn. Right. And maybe in that process. We start to see the world. Through the lens of love and compassion. Recognizing that spark.
Recognizing the spark of the divine. On everyone we encounter. Right.
Yeah.
So it's about shifting our perspective
from one of separation
to
one of
interconnectedness. Yeah.
Right.
Recognizing
that we're all
part
of this
grand tapestry.
Of existence.
Yeah. This whole conversation.
Yeah.
Reminds me of something Dr.
Dinani
said about the Sufi concept of fana. It's often translated as annihilation.
Yeah, it's often translated as
he explained
that.
It's not about obliterating
ego,
but it's about dissolving the illusion of separation. That's a beautiful way of putting it. It's recognizing.
Yeah, it's recognizing that
our individual identities
are just
drops in the vast ocean. Of being right. We retain our unique forms. But we also recognize
our interconnectedness.
With
the whole.
Yeah. Right?
Right.
And maybe that's what Rumi's hinting at. When he talks about those who are separated
from themselves.
They're separated from themselves.
Are separated
from themselves.
Companions.
Right.
Maybe it's in that recognition.
Perhaps.
It's in that recognition.
Of our shared humanity.
Our shared longing for connection.
That we
find our way back. To wholeness. Right.
It makes me think about.
It makes you think.
All the times I felt
alone.
Isolated.
All the times you felt alone.
Disconnected
from myself
and the world around me.
From yourself and the world around you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just maybe.
And maybe
those were
the times
when I was
most in need.
When you're the most in need.
Of Rumi's companionship.
Right.
And perhaps serves as a reminder that we're never truly alone. That there's a love,
a wisdom,
a presence
always available to us.
That's always available to us.
If we just open our hearts and minds to receive it.
To receive it.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
Been an incredible conference.
Into Rumi's wisdom. And I want to thank you for sharing your insights and expertise.
That's been a pleasure.
With me and our listeners.
I hope this conversation has sparked some inspiration.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I know it has.
Even a few aha moments.
For me.
For those listening.
And I hope our listeners will join us as we continue.
It has for me too.
To explore.
I hope our listeners will join us.
The depths.
As we continue to explore.
Of Rumi's poetry.
The depths of Rumi's poetry.
Right.
And the wisdom.
Dr. Dinani.
Of Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani.
Dr. Larijani.
In these audio files.
Until then. Yeah. May your journey be filled.
And may your journey be filled with love, light, and companionship.
And the companionship.
Of kindred spirits.
Right. And may we all find our way.
And may we all find our way.
To that field beyond.
Right and wrong. Where Rumi awaits. With open arms.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Wisdom Unveiled.